I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
Capella University is rethinking higher education. With its game-changing FlexPath learning format, you can earn your degree on your schedule and fit your education seamlessly into your life. Imagine your future differently at capella.edu.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Choose Yourself Network. Today on the James Altucher Show.
So I just, as an example of what you said and what I just said, I just went out to LA to pitch a TV show. I pitched Netflix, Amazon, NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, TNT, CNBC, an amazing bunch of meetings, an amazing bunch of people, amazing production company setting up all the meetings. And I said yes to all the meetings because I didn't want to make a crime of omission. And I wanted the experience. How many people get the experience of pitching the heads of media in the world? But the other thing is, let's say everyone rejects me. You can't, I don't know how to say it.
You can't take things personally. I like the distinction between expectations and expectancy. You don't have to have a specific expectation. You have expectancy, like good things are going to happen. And again, my favorite quotes, things work out best for those who make the best of the way things work out. Like,
things work out best who make the
for
best.
those who make the best of the way things work out.
For those who make the best. Oh, okay, I see. So however it works out, I will make the best of it.
Absolutely.
And so things will work out the best for me.
They will.
Going backwards in the
Yes,
quote.
absolutely.
I remember one time I met a hedge fund manager. I wanted to raise some money from him, and because and I was desperate to raise some more money to build a viable business of my hedge fund. And he said to me, "Look, I can't put money with you. I don't know where you're putting your money because I don't know good or bad. It's hard to figure that out. And the last thing I need," and this is him saying this to me, "the last thing I need is to see the name of my firm, Bernard Madoff Securities, on the front page of the Wall Street Journal." And I remember leaving his office so depressed. I figured, how am I going to compete against Bernie Madoff? And I literally switched careers because Bernie Madoff was better than me in my mind. Now, nobody knew then that he was a scam. Everyone later said, we knew. But I can guarantee you they didn't know because people were calling me saying, can you get us into Bernie Madoff's fund?
And part of that, though, is people are blind because they see something they want. Right? Like they see, Warren Buffett famously said, how do you know when the tide comes in, who's not wearing shorts, right? So
right, but how do you know before the tide comes in is the problem.
Well, Ken Langone talked about Madoff, and he said he just felt, and I'm sure you did too, there was something uneasy about you, some intuition. And in Langone's case, he said that Madoff was like, "Listen, I got this great thing for you if you want to do it. I'm not even telling my current customers." And he's like,
Right.
What kind of low-life scumbag is like giving me a deal like I just met?
Well, and
you know?
I see deals all the time, right? And so
Yeah.
the one rule of thumb I always ask myself is, no one wakes up in the morning and says, I have to make sure James Altucher makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Wow.
So I was pitched a deal the other day. A successful real estate guy, as far as I know, he's successful, and he's got a commercial development in a up and coming city. And he's like, look, we raised already $3 million. We just need a final 50,000. I figured I'd show you the deal. I haven't spoken to him in 7 years. And
Wow.
and I don't know if he was just being nice or what, but I of course passed on the deal, but I always say to myself, why am I magically, he knows every real
Right.
estate developer in the world. He raises money for every other
Right.
project. Why did I suddenly magically 7 years later get this amazing
Sure.
once in a lifetime opportunity? It never, ever, 100% of the time never happens. So that's the way I check myself always. And when I start to feel that greed, like, oh, I could get in on this great deal. Nobody ever woke up wanting to give me a great deal.
Is it sort of the if it seems too good to be true, then it usually
Yes.
is, or you
Yes.
saying not usually 100%?
But you have to. That's why you have to take it further, because everything sometimes seems too good to be true. Even when you have good luck, it seems too good to be true. But I remember one time, this is like 15 years ago, someone called me. They were setting up a telecom company in Africa, and they said, Clinton is coming in, George Soros is in, and we're almost done with the round. We need $24,000, $25,000 more dollars. We'd love to have your hedge fund in. And again, I go home thinking to myself, is Bill Clinton really waiting by the phone for a phone call from this guy saying, guess what? We finally got James Altucher in. It's a go. Like, no. Like, so there's a scam there. And that guy did go out of business.
I remember in 2002, I was in Cambridge, and my friend Mark was like, look, my friends Dustin, Chris, and Eduardo, they're starting this company online. Do you want to do it? And
Yeah, but think about Facebook.
Yeah.
There was a lot of skepticism.
Sure.
They didn't know what the business model would be. Like,
yeah,
you know,
it's execution too.
Eduardo Saverin said, we're going to go out of business unless we sell ads. And Mark Zuckerberg was like, no ads. So there was a lot of skepticism around there.
Absolutely.
And only someone like Peter Thiel, who understood the power of, there's Metcalfe's law, which is that the value of a network is exponential to the number of nodes in that
interesting.
network. So he valued based on some scientific principles and saw that Facebook was going to be huge. But if you were just looking at a business model, no one knew.
Sure.
So, and look, I had the opportunity to invest in Google, and I turned it down because 5 search engines had just gone out of business.
Oh, wow.
So, a lot of things you don't know. But when someone creates an above and beyond deal just for you only, there's something wrong.
One of the smartest things you've ever said, like, and there haven't been that many. No, there've been a lot. Is
I've said a lot of stupid things too. Probably even on this podcast.
Me too. I'm the ringleader of dumb things. But no, but I think it's worth repeating, your whole story about how you reached out to a lot of people and you offered to buy them coffee, and how your life changed when you said, no, I'm going to provide value for them.
But when I was dead broke, down and out, I realized you can't blame anyone else for your problems, and you can't ask for anyone for help, because no one wakes up thinking, today's the day I help James Altucher. Everyone's thinking about, how can I help myself today? And that sounds crass, but maybe I don't mean it that extreme, but that's the truth. And so you have to, and I call this choosing yourself. I also, in the book Choose Yourself, I call this daily practice. So I started doing this, which is that, you have to be healthy, because if you're not working on your health every day, you're not going to come up with ideas. You're not going to execute on those ideas. You're not going to be inspiring, and so on. Then you have to be emotionally healthy, because if you're arguing with all the people around you every day, or if you're fixated on people you don't like or who have betrayed you or whatever, you're also not going to move forward. You only have 60,000 thoughts a day. If 40,000 of them are about people you don't like, you've just wasted 40,000 thoughts. So you have to be emotionally healthy. And then creativity is a muscle. People think, oh no, Mozart just at the age of 9 wrote a concerto because he's a prodigy. No, as Anders Ericsson and Malcolm Gladwell have pointed out, by the time Mozart was 9, he'd already put in, because his dad, Leopold, was a famous composer and an instructor, he'd already put in his 10,000 hours of work. Tiger Woods picked up a golf club at the age of 2 and was winning tournaments by the age of 4 because he's putting in thousands of hours of work. So
Few people are born, most people are made.
right, and so that requires work and what Anders Ericsson calls deliberate practice. But what I do is I take out a waiter's pad and I write 10 ideas down. And it's a challenge to come up with 10.
And I will say this again, not like, it's amazing. Like, because I've started to follow a lot of your practices, and in the words of the Monkees, I'm a believer.
Well,
Words of Neil Diamond.
It works.
It works 100%.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So, I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game-like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply.
There's evidence. There's
better
evidence.
version of me.
People used to think this. So there's a kind of there's kind of brain cells called myelin, which I don't know all the science, technology, whatever the word, but basically when you learn something, neurons start to get connected. When you learn something extremely well, there's something called myelin, which builds a sheath between neurons so that stays in memory, that skill that you learned. And so the people who are the most skilled have the most myelin around the neurons relating to those skills. And so people used to think that myelin was only built as a kid, but it's just simply that kids have more time, more hours per day to spend exercising the connections of those neurons. It turns out you could build myelin up till old age, but people do not consistently play the piano all day when they're 45 years old because they have mortgages to pay and kids to pay for and so on. So that's why they always say it's hard to learn languages, hard to learn new skills and so on. But you can learn it at any age, so creativity falls under that category. Creativity is a muscle, it's a skill to learn, and by writing down 10 ideas a day, you learn that skill. And people say, oh, ideas are a dime a dozen. That's just simply not true. And good ideas are definitely not a dime a dozen. You might have one good idea every year or so, but if you don't practice the creativity muscle, you'll never have a good idea. And then people say execution's everything. What they forget that the way you execute is itself an idea. So I know a guy who's building a business. I won't go into the details of the business, but he's trying to sell his product for the highest possible price so he makes money. And I said, no, why don't you try giving the product away for free? The cost of the product is nothing. So give away the product for free to as many people as possible so you get the network effect that we spoke about with Facebook as opposed to just pure short-term cash. And so that's 2 easy ways to execute on the same idea, but one execution model might create a bad business and the other execution model might create a good business. And I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just 2 different models.
I think you're right.
And execution ideas are just as important as creativity ideas, and it'll make or break a success. So what I started doing is, at first, I made a list of all the people I wanted to meet and mentor me. And I said, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? But as I always write, it's not like Warren Buffett gets my email and says to his secretary, hey, Gladys, hold all my calls. I'm worth $75 billion, and someone named James Altucher wants to buy me a 60-cent cup of coffee downstairs, so I have to just wait around for him to make an appointment with me. No one says that. So what I have to do instead was I studied each person I was writing. I came up with 10 ideas for their business, sent it to them, sent it to 20 people, each catered to that person. 3 people wrote back. One person, I literally wrote him 10 pieces of software to model the stock market. He was a hedge fund manager. He allocated money to me. Another person I wrote, he was a writer for a financial site. I said, here's 10 ideas of articles you should write about. And I really researched the ideas. So he almost didn't need to write them. I gave him the outlines of the articles. And he wrote back and said, these are great. why don't you start writing them for me and for my site? The third person, I forget the ideas I had for him, but he's like, this is great. I will meet you for a coffee. But that was only 3 responses out of 20. So still, this is to your point about persistence, that still required a lot of, I had to send, if I had just sent 3 emails to the wrong people, wouldn't have gotten a response. People expect everybody should respond. They're not.
Yeah.
So, but, again, the first person, I created a hedge fund out of his first amount of money. That's the hedge fund guy that both Roy Niederhofer and I had worked for. The second guy was Jim Cramer, and he ended up buying a company of mine for $10 million 5 years later because I built up that relationship. The third person I did not respond to until 2014, 12 years later, and that's when Nassim Taleb came on the podcast. And the other 17 people, never heard from again.
But you might. I mean, you never know. Like, right? You don't know unless you do it, and sometimes, fine.
Well, like when you send a letter to somebody, you don't say, please come on our podcast. You say, hey, you have a book coming out. Here's similar authors who have been on our podcast. Here's how other ways we'll promote what you're working on.
What I won't say is we've had so and so and so and you
need if you're
like
worth
somebody
anything.
had sent us, for those people out there producing land or Publicistville, and they said good enough for Stanley McChrystal or Bill Walton, good enough for you, and I was like, yes, it's not good enough for. I mean, like, it's moronic. Like what I mean. So for those of you out there, like what I'm saying, again, I have your trust and attention. Like when we pursue people, it's not just that we've had these other people. P.T. Barnum could be right. There's a sucker born every minute. It could be about how, you know what, this guy is amazing. Like we're going to do a different interview. Like it's not replicable.
Right.
Not perfect, but.
Right, and it's not. It almost sounds selfish to say, "Hey, they need to cater to our agendas."
Yeah.
But the reality is, we have a nuanced agenda. We're looking for peak performers that also could be a little bit entertaining to the listeners. Keep going, and
that's a different way to look at it. It's not like you're good or bad. It might not be a good fit, and that's okay. And I think that one thing I really did learn from you is the idea of choice. And for example, if somebody says, "Hey, can we have this person on?" Right now in this room is a woman I haven't met who. They said, okay, well, how about we just meet? And if they're interesting enough or smart enough or dedicated enough to say, you know what, let me come up to you and I'll meet you for a half hour. There's 100 other ways to do things. Again, like GZ, there's a million ways to get it. Like maybe they'll come on another time. Maybe you'll go on their thing. Maybe I'll learn something from them. Maybe a year from now you could do something. But what you've always talked about is you just have to do things. You have to just do it. Like it's better to commit an error of commission than omission. And some people are very short-sighted when they say no about the podcast. My choice is to say, thanks so much. Please come to a podcast. Or, hey, and then have other guests.
And then in the future, we're always thinking of their agendas. Like if we see another opportunity to help them, we could say, hey, sometimes we don't even say, hey, come on our podcast. We'll specifically say, hey, go on XYZ podcast. It'll actually be better than
Tanya
ours.
Dalton, maybe it's better for you to go on, So Kyle Fussman's podcast or Jordan Harbinger.
The final part of this daily practice, which nobody ever talks about, they always talk about the ideas, the 10 ideas a day on a waiter's pad, because that's the one that's most immediately, you could see. What you'll see is within 3 months, you're having better ideas, and within 6 months, everything you look at, because now your myelin is wired around those creativity muscles. Everything you look at, you'll start coming up with ideas, and you really see a visible effect. But so everyone focuses on that. But there is kind of what I'll call the spiritual side, which I hate to use that word because it almost sounds religious or new agey. But you kind of have to focus. Is maybe another way of saying is you have to focus on, and we talk about this, process versus outcomes. So I just, as an example of what you said and what I just said, I just went out to LA to pitch a TV show. I pitched Netflix, Amazon, NBC, CBS, ABC, Fox, TNT, CNBC, an amazing bunch of meetings, an amazing bunch of people, amazing production company setting up all the meetings. What did you say?
Al Jazeera.
I would have pitched them if they wanted to have a meeting. And but I pitched. It was like an amazing. I said yes to all the meetings because I didn't want to make a crime of omission, and I wanted the experience. How many people get the experience of pitching the heads of media in the world? But the other thing is, and this is where the spiritual aspect is, let's say everyone rejects me. Okay, I might want to understand, did they reject me personally? Did they reject the idea? Whatever. But I won't be upset because you have to, you can't, I don't know how to say it.
You can't take things personally. You
can't take things personally, and you have to kind of learn to have as much well-being as possible in each moment, because the cliche is you might die the next moment. And you figure out what you learn from the experience that could benefit not only your life, but the lives of the people around you. So I'll definitely have several articles I'll be able to write about it. I viewed each meeting as like a mini podcast. So I learned a huge amount about the state of the media world from across the spectrum, maybe in ways that even they don't see in their own little palaces. So you have to view things as an amazing
just
experience.
For everybody out there, I think great things are going to happen from it. And I think, I like the distinction between expectations and expectancy. You don't have to have a specific expectation. You can have expectancy, like good things are going to happen. And again, closing with one of my favorite quotes, things work out best for those who make the best of the way things work out. Like,
things work out best those who make the best
of the way things work out.
For those who make the best. Oh, okay, I see. So however it works out, I will make the best of it.
Absolutely.
And so things will work out the best for me.
They will.
Going backwards in the quote.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I will say another Steve Cohen quote, which I always quote without giving you credit. I use this quote in the pitches, actually.
Oh, great.
The way you do anything is the way you do, or the way you do. If you always do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. Correct. And so my point is, in that quote, is that everybody, the show is somewhat about transformation.
Yeah.
And people are coming to the show because they need transformation, but that means they have to do things drastically different, because the way they've done it before got them to the point where they needed a transformation. So they have to do things differently. Anyway, I think the personal solutions of doing this daily practice, that works, and that is something everybody can do. If everybody did it, all the other problems will be solved, but the reality is nobody does most things. Can we make that into
true and related?
Can we make that into a Steve Cohen style quote? Nobody does most things.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yours sounds like Yogi Berra is like nobody ever goes there. It's too crowded, But yeah, we definitely have to think about it.
So Steve Cohenize it. Can you do it on the fly?
Yeah. Yeesh. Putting me on the spot. Okay. Nobody ever does most things. Yeah. I mean, so easy.
You can't say nobody ever does.
No, I think it's what you're essentially saying. It's simple, but it's not easy, right? Like it's simple, but it's not easy to do.
Or maybe nobody ever does the things that will make you a somebody.
Yeah, I like that. That's really good.
You have
That's
that
really good.
What's it called?
You always have that.
An anaphor, like the Ted Sorensen.
Yeah.
Ask not what your country will do for you. Ask what you will do for your country. So
when you doubt your
reverse.
power, you give power to your doubt. I mean, there's a lot of them. Yeah. No, there's a lot. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
AI might be the most important new computer technology ever. It's storming every industry, and literally billions of dollars are being invested. So buckle up. The problem is that AI needs a lot of speed and processing power, so how do you compete without costs spiraling out of control? It's time to upgrade to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI. OCI is a single platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs. OCI has 4 to 8 times the bandwidth of other clouds, offers one consistent price instead of variable regional pricing, and of course, nobody does data better than Oracle. So now you can train your AI models at twice the speed and less than half the cost of other clouds. If you want to do more and spend less, like Uber, 8x8, and Databricks Mosaic, take a free test drive of OCI at oracle.com/advance. That's oracle.com/advance. oracle.com/advance.